the old book here. I say something funny. I swear. I found a feather, if that counts. No, I didn't write it down. Because I'm an idiot. Although I did write down everything I ate and my exercise plan. And I found a feather, which is good. I didn't write down my thing for the cold open. Oh, I guess that's the cold open. I found a feather. Here's the video. Welcome back to my channel, and this time I am actually up to something. It's a sewing video. It's finally happened. No more unboxings, although I'll probably still do unboxings because I like them. It's a real sewing video. It's a real sewing video. Like, there's more than like 3 steps. I'm so happy. Part of my New Year's resolutions this year was that I really wanted to try to do 2 projects for YouTube a month. This counts as 1. January was a hard start. This is 1. And hopefully next weekend-ish, maybe, next week, I will have the first of a series of projects that I'm working on for you guys. But anyway, let's talk about this one. I am so excited when I had the idea to do this project because it is still the last week of January as of the filming and posting of this video. And it's for once in the whole 5 years I've lived in this state. Cold. And I don't mean just a little nippy. I mean, it's like, it's cold. It's downright chilly, which doesn't happen often for me. So naturally, I don't have a lot of like wintry clothes. I mean, look at what I'm wearing right now. Like no sleeves. I don't own stuff like that. So I decided I needed a coat, but not any coat. I needed a coat dress, which is exactly what I made. And I think it turned out good. I like it. Anyway, I used this McCalls costumes pattern by YaYa. Amazingly, my dress is a very similar colorway to what she did. Totally unintentional. It's just what I picked out. I didn't even pick the pattern until after I bought all my materials. But yeah, I have really enjoyed this. It's very cozy. It's very pretty. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's go over to voiceover Carly.
All right, so let's get started. The materials I used for this project are a Bordeaux burgundy colored anti-pill fleece. I have a white and gold printed cotton for the godets and a pink broadcloth for the lining, which you won't see me cutting here, but I did get around to. These pattern pieces are not like your normal pattern pieces as they're a whole paneled piece. There's no waist seam, which I really like for the overall fit of this project. As you can see here, I'm doing something a little different. Usually when you cut a pattern, you would start by cutting out all of your main pieces and then applying the interfacing. However, since I was working with fleece, which has a really awful tendency to warp and stretch, I decided to cut the interfacing pieces first and then apply them just to my uncut fabric and then cut the pieces out, which ultimately worked out really well. My pieces, especially along the bottom edge, didn't warp or anything or shift while I was working with the project. I did lay it out to hang for a couple of days, so if it was going to shift, I could alter it before sewing, but there was very little of that. So, you know, kudos to me for coming up with that kind of plan.
Okay, so here I'm cutting out the godets for this project, and this was just from your basic, like a white and gold printed cotton that I had in my stash. It's actually a really pretty design, and I wound up having 6 of these pieces. So let's see what all other pieces I needed. Yes, there's a lot of them. So I have 2 back pieces, which I have laid out here with that lovely straight edge. That's going to be my center back seam. Yes, I see back pieces. Okay, next we have the side back pieces. Okay, somewhere in this pile. Side back. There we go. So those are going to be attached to the back pieces heading in towards the front. Then I have the side front pieces. This is the C-cup side. And then 4 of the front panel. The lining you would cut the same, the 2 pieces for the back, side front, and all of the godets. However, for the front pieces, you only cut it from the main fabric as one serves as a facing. And then I have 2 sleeve pieces and 2 collar pieces. Because you know, you need 2 sleeves and the collar's gotta be finished. You're getting there. Keep going. Good job. And now for the part we've all been waiting for, the actual sewing process. So here I'm starting with my back pieces and I'm just doing up the back seam. That small dot you can see down there by my right hand is actually where the seam will end, as this dress coat has a kick pleat. So I'm just going to put a pin there to remind myself to stop sewing there instead of sewing up the whole seam. I did something a little different than what the instructions said, because the instructions for this printed pattern say to sew all of the main body pieces up into the small dot on the side, and then you would add the godets later. I tried that on my mock-up and they came out crooked and they didn't sit right, and I had to do a lot of hand sewing to get them in, so I decided, why not just sew the godet on and then sew on the next piece? So that's what I did. I just went ahead, as you can see here, I'm putting the godets onto the outside of the back piece, and then I will attach the side back piece also up where that arm side is and everything. And it made a much cleaner finish for my product that I wanted, and I didn't have to go back in and do a whole bunch of hand sewing to close up little gaps and seams where you couldn't quite get where the fleece and the cotton were matching up. Okay, with my back seam sewed up and those first godets on, I can show you what I was talking about with how exactly I sewed these on. So this is my side back seam. I'm going to match the notches up here, being very careful that that curved seam is going to lay nice and flat when it goes through so I don't have any puckers. And then I'm going to kind of swivel my side back panel out a little bit so that the edge lays across the right side of that godet, creating just that little split of color you see between the red. It creates a really great contrast, and again, the reason I did it this way is because going in and adding the godets afterwards was a little too complicated, especially for this type of fabric. So once I have all that pinned, I will actually go ahead and flip the side back piece out and add the godet on the outside and pin and sew all of that together at once, so that way when I come back to do the side front piece, I can just add it right on.
Okay, so this is what it looks like when all the side panels and the godets are sewed in. Now I'm going to put on the front piece, and then I've got the lining underneath, which is already sewn, but I need to sew the front panel on. Nice.
Okay, so I do apologize because I don't know where the footage of my sewing the front panels on went, but here it is. Please excuse my mess. I was KonMariing my closet and it kind of turned into a disaster. But yes, this is what the basic just outline of the coat looks like. I think the godets turned out very well, and now we need to go on to adding the rest of the pieces. Yay! Okay, next up is the collar piece, which you put right sides together, and we're going to sew along the unnotched edge, which is the 2 narrow edges and the inner scoop. And then once we've got that all, yeah, you got that. Once that's sewn together, then we're getting ready to attach it to the outside of the coat. This will be the fleece pieces, not the lining. Make sure you're matching up your center pieces. Flip it down so it's kind of like laying flat against it, and clip it in place. I'm using pins here, however, once I do get this put into place, I actually wound up having to use binder clips to keep it where I wanted to, because I was effectively sewing through 3 layers of fleece. Keep in mind that the collar does not go all the way out to the edge, because you do still need to sew on the lining, and you're going to turn that in a little bit. Also, you're going to need a little overlap for your button, so if it doesn't go all the way to the end of the neckline, don't worry, that is intentional. Always check your pattern pieces. I believe there were some small circles to match up with. You may also need to clip parts of your neckline just to get it to kind of swoop a little bit. I was using fleece, so it has a bit of a give anyway, and I didn't really have that problem. Alright guys, we're hitting it. It's time to go for the big guns. Yes, you can do this, don't worry. So now we're going to attach the lining to the coat itself. So you're going to take your coat and put it with the inside facing down, and then you're going to put your lining with the right side facing. So all of your seams will be facing out, as you can see here, and you're going to attach from the bottom of the front panel going all the way up to the shoulder and the collar piece, around and then back down the other side. Make sure you're not sewing up your hem or anything like that. We're going to get to that in a little bit. And whatever you do not sew your armholes together, because then you can't flip it the right way out. So another thing which you'll also see my trial and error for in a second is that you're going to be sewing through a lot of layers of fabric. I've got 4 layers of fleece in some places here, and as you can see, my pins wouldn't fit. I'd actually use binder clips that I had to get out of my stationery desk to get these pieces to stick together. It's a lot of stuff, but once you get through the main part of sewing this lining part together, you're pretty much home free. You only get a couple steps after this. So let me give you a quick lesson. Just, you want to see what happened when I tried to sew this collar on.
No! What are you doing? You're fine. You're fine. Nothing broke.
She was wrong. Something had broken.
You're fine. Okay, what's broken? Oh, my needle broke. Well, that sucks. That's a new needle, too. Look at that. My needle broke. Can't sew without a needle.
Okay, 10-second sewing lesson. When you're sewing through a project that you know are going to have really thick layers, make sure you're using a heavy-duty needle so they don't break in the middle of the project.
So let's hope this works this time. Get off. Get off. Got it. You got it. You got this. Yep. Heavy duty. That's what I needed for this project.
So you remember a little while ago when I was saying that, you know, getting the coat and the lining together, we were pretty much home free? That was a lie, because we're only halfway through this project. Yes, we've got the main part of the coat and the lining put together, and now we're going to trim down the seams and turn it right side out. But we're only 12 minutes into this video, and we have so much left to do. Oh my goodness. Next up, sleeves. Okay, so the way I did the sleeves were not the instructions, and I thought I knew what I was doing. There might be a better way to do this. Ultimately, it turned out pretty good, but, you know, I did it a little weird. So I'm laying the lining and matching up the centers and the notches along that top arm side, and, you know, kind of checking out the cuff, seeing where it needs to fold. But mostly, I do need to go in and mark the stitching lines for the elastic that will go around the forearm. I'm using a water-soluble marker here and just marking these 2 stitching lines, and then I'm going to run it over to the machine and just run through those, I guess. We're doing a lot of running in this, which is hilarious because I don't exercise regularly like I should. Anyway, sleeves! Okay, once you've got your channel for your elastic sewn up, as you can see here, it's time to put that cuff in place. Now, as you can see, I'm not putting this in the right place. The cuff should go over the elastic. It shouldn't sit there. No. Now you're doing it right. So the top of the cuff is actually going to sit right above the top of that elastic channel. Pin it down, take it over to your sewing machine. This may be where I messed up, because as you'll see in the next clip, I had to actually put the elastic through the channel, which with the cuff sewn in place was a touch difficult. However, that wasn't even the hardest part of this whole process. Okay, here's the hard part, is getting the freaking elastic into that little channel, as you can see with the slight puckers that are made from when I sewed it in. I'm using a safety pin. Note to the wise, make sure you use a large enough safety pin, because I initially started this with a very small one. It got stuck halfway. I had to rip out the whole thing and sew it a second time. I don't know if you guys could tell, but my voiceover is starting to get as tired as I was when I got to this part of the project. But as you can see, when I get to one end of that elastic, I'm going to pin it in place real well with 2 pins. Keep pulling it on through, and then pin it on the other side, kind of helping it along. It's going to start to look a little bit like a shriveled up snail without a shell halfway through here. Gosh, I don't even know where that analogy came from. But once you work the elastic all the way through to the other side, again, you're going to put more pins in that elastic to keep it there on the seam. And why are we doing this instead of basting it down? Because I like skipping steps. So as soon as I've got that in place, we're going to put our inner seams for the sleeve together, as you can see here, matching up the ends and the cuffs and putting a bunch of pins where that elastic is. Because as soon as I'm done pinning, I'm taking it over to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew it down. keep in mind this does leave a raw edge in your sleeve. You can use your serger or you can cover it with lace tape. I'm sure there's a much prettier way to do this, but like I said, I was kind of getting to the point of this project where I just wanted it done because I was ready to put it on my body because I was cold. Anyway, sleeves. After this, it gets way worse. Okay, last step of the sleeves, which amazingly, as annoying as they were still not the worst part of this project. We're getting to the worst part, and you're gonna have to see it to believe it. So, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna flip our coat inside out, make sure that your lining and your outer pieces of that arm side are all next to each other. I would suggest basting this before trying to attach your sleeve, but then shove your sleeve in the inside so that you've got your right sides together. That little gray line you see at the top of my arm side is actually some basting stitches I threw in because we gotta gather the top of that sleeve. I start down at the bottom where the side seam and the sleeve seam match up, and then kind of pin around until I hit those basting stitches. From there, I'm gonna tug on the basting stitches to cause a gather on the top of the sleeve, and then just kind of finagle it into the rest of the arm side. If you want bigger, poofier sleeves, I would suggest adding a little bit more to the side seams and maybe expanding out the top of the head of the sleeve. Mine turned out fairly large, like pretty big. Like they almost look like wings with how big they turned out. I was very satisfied. Once you've got everything pinned in place, and again, with these gathers, you're going to want to use a fair number of pins. Take it over to your sewing machine. Try not to hurt yourself as you finagle that little arm side into your sewing machine to get it all sewed together. And then I will welcome you to the 7th circle of hell.
The sleeves are on, and they turned out pretty good. This one needed a little bit of hand sewing. Yeah. All that's left now is the buttons and the hem, and then we're done! Yay! I really do like how this turned out.
Alright, we're here. Home stretch. 2 big things I have to finish to get this project done and ready to put on my body. The first is marking out all of the buttonhole placements. This is just the front panel. I'm putting them on the right side of the dress so that the buttons will be underneath. And you know, buttonholes shouldn't be too hard because my machine has an automatic buttonhole foot thing-the-bob and fancy feature. So I'm just gonna put it in there and let it do its thing, and then I'll have pretty buttonholes. And yes, I'm very optimistic about this. Don't you think?
Hi, so this is Editing Carly. I totally forgot to mention when I was, actually wearing makeup and sitting in front of my bookcases and looking all like professional-ish, that sewing buttonholes on this project was the assignment from hell. It did not want to work. I tried multiple things. I tried putting tissue paper underneath it to make it kind of glide through better. No, it refused because 2 layers of fleece and interfacing was just too much for my machine to handle. So I tried for a couple of hours. It did not work like I wanted it to, and ultimately I just said screw it. Who needs bound buttonholes or anything? No, I just cut slits in that front panel for the buttons to slip through. Not real proud of that because it looks not wonderful up close, but from a distance you really can't tell. And I know they're gonna warp over time, but yeah, that's future Carly's problem. So back to the video now.
Whoa, did we just go somewhere for a second? Maybe? I don't know. I've been doing this a while. Anyway, last step. And this is really shouldn't be the hardest part of the whole project, and that's the hemming. So the hem for this, I'm sure there are probably better ways to do it. There are probably better ways to do lots of things, but pretty much all I'm doing is I'm cutting that front layer so that the lining is a little bit shorter. And for all of my fleece pattern pieces, whatever, I'm just kind of folding them up until they touch that lining and pinning them in place. And then when I get to the cotton godets, which you can kind of see under there, I'm actually double rolling them to hide that rough edge so that they sit up next to the lining. This can be a little difficult to finagle, but all of this hem is going to be hand sewed in, so I can kind of work with it as I go along. And yeah, it ultimately turned out really nice. I used the same color thread as for the fleece the whole time, so when you get to the godet parts, you can't see it. But, you know, other than that, it's not that bad. How about we check in with Hemming Carly and see how that's going along? Can we cut over to you, Hemming Carly, from the past?
Just a quick update on where we are with this project. It is 11:15. It's Sunday night. I'm watching The Devil Wears Prada, and I have finished only half of this hem. So I'm hoping I can get it done by midnight, maybe get the buttons sewn on, and then it will be finished. Here's hoping.
One eternity later.
So yes, final thoughts on this project. Overall, I am very happy with how it turned out. It fits how I wanted it to fit. It is very warm when, you know, we're walking around downtown and there's like a wind chill. Again, I live in the South, so my definition of cold is anything below like 65 degrees. Yeah, the only things I would change, definitely I would not use fleece again because buttonholes were the devil. And it's a little thick. I think maybe I just wouldn't use it again. Definitely not fleece. Don't do fleece. Guys, don't learn from my mistakes. Don't use fleece. And then the sleeves, I feel like, again, this may have just been the issue with the fleece being so thick, is that the sleeves look kind of big. I look very bulky up top when I wear this. Not that I mind, because I still ultimately like it. But yes. Will I use this pattern again? Abso-freaking-lutely, because I love that there is an additional side front piece for each cup size. So you have A, B, C, and then D cups, which makes a massive difference in fittings. Usually when I make mock-ups of my stuff, I have to let it out quite a bit up top because I'm a bit busty according to regular patterns or whatever. So yes, A+ pattern. I really love it. If you want more details on it, I will leave a link in the description box where it links to the McCalls site and you can take a look at it. But yes, I cannot recommend this enough. Really, I would love to make another coat dress like this. Maybe not with the godets, maybe just a regular standard wool suiting and maybe doing like an emerald green. Ooh, with black buttons. Oh, that would be really pretty. Okay, no, I have other projects first. I will be back 2 weeks tops. I'm really aiming for like sometime next week-ish with my next project, and then I'll have another project after that, and I'm really hoping that you guys are gonna like them. Speaking of liking, did you like that segue? It was a good segue. If you liked this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button down there. If you did not like this video, don't tell me. I have fragile feelings. If you want to engage with me, ask a question, just say hi, leave a comment down there. I like comments, they make me a little happy, you know? Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have not yet, hit that subscribe button, and that way you can know when I update. If you really want to know when I update and I can pop up on your smart device like a little ghost, hit the bell icon. And yes, I will catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.